The next protection-related challenge is related to corrections. And in 2007 in December, there was a report that was published by the Department of Corrections that had a lot of really great ideas about how to reduce recidivism and save money and improve community safety at the same time. So this challenge is to improve the recidivism rate and community safety while spending 8% less. And the idea is to provide support to implementing many of those recommendations, plus perhaps others that may be effective in reducing recidivism at the same time preserving community safety. Examples of some of the strategies included lower cost alternatives for weekenders, probation time limits for nonviolent offenders, increasing substance abuse treatment, and providing increased transition housing. And in order to accomplish this and provide adequate support, the committee is recommending that a one-time investment of $5 million of the first year savings be made in order to implement these strategies, increasing substance abuse treatment, increasing transition housing, and so forth.
A couple of education elements to the package. One is to maximize the amount of state resources that are actually focused on student achievement and learning as opposed to the administrative functions. And I think as everybody knows, there are lots of school districts in Vermont, and each has its own administrative infrastructure. And this is a common problem throughout the country. Over the past 3 or 4 decades, what states have been trying to do is consolidate school districts, and that meets with enormous resistance. It's difficult, and the idea here is you don't have to consolidate school districts to achieve collaboration and sharing in back office and administrative functions. And it can be done through incentives and providing some mechanisms that make it easy for school districts to collaborate on these services. And we're also suggesting that if this idea were pursued, that only part of the savings from it be captured as to contribute to the budget deficit, that the other part be redirected towards student learning, so that there will be more money available from the education fund to school districts to use directly for instructional purposes. And there's in the design elements, there's some ideas about how that might be accomplished. Then there's a challenge related to special education, and here the challenge is to ask special ed professionals to redesign the way special ed services are delivered, so that even as we spend less money, we can get better outcomes for the students that are in the special ed system. And some of this has to do with the amount of red tape that's involved. Some special education teachers report that they spend half their time on paperwork rather than working with the children. And the idea here is if we start with a clean sheet of paper and rethink how this system is done, that federal mandates can still be met, but allow teachers, special ed teachers, to have more time working directly with children and spend less time on administrative.
The next challenge relates to regulatory reform, and in this challenge we are anticipating increasing compliance with state regulations while spending 3% less. And we do this in 2 ways. One is by redesigning the compliance process, and the second is by streamlining processes within state government. When I say redesigning the compliance process, there is research and practice that shows that if compliers understand how to comply, if the rules are clear and compelling, they will comply. And so here we're trying to win compliance by providing more information to compliers, taxpayers, about how to comply with the laws and rules, and providing them more feedback on their compliance rates, and then we'll be increasing compliance rates. Then we'll be auditing or inspecting for the exceptions rather than as the rule. The other approach is to streamline bureaucratic processes. For example, we have found, at least in one state, by using a process improvement approach, they were able to reduce the number of days for approving air quality construction permits from 62 days down to 6 days. And so there are ways to streamline the compliance processes in state government that we think will improve service and reduce costs.
And the bottom line there, this is not about deregulating. The bottom line is to have cleaner air and cleaner water, but there's more 21st century ways of doing it. Okay, then we have the eighth element here is economic development strategy. It appears as if the state is currently funding a number of programs, each of which is excellent in and of itself, and provides some unspecified benefit to the economy of the state. And the alternative here is to take this relatively small amount of money that's invested, some $34 million annually in economic development activities, and rethink how it's spent using a different process, a different kind of a budgeting process for that out of $34 million. And that new process would be to say, what are the outcomes we seek from our economic development dollars? Things like new jobs created, rising personal income, lowering unemployment, GDP, whatever outcomes the state is seeking, and say, what are the factors that we know, that evidence tells us leads to those outcomes? And then asking people who want to contribute to those outcomes to propose specific initiatives that fit together and best move the dials on those outcomes. And the hypothesis here is that you'll get a different set of decisions about how the state invests its $34 million, and you get better